Hello, good afternoon. Welcome back. We're a little bit late, I'm sorry. I'm Janhavi Papat and I'm the president for IVSA Mumbai, which is a local chapter. This is our third day today for the webinar wildlife series. And yesterday was an amazing lecture on the feline by Nikhil sir, and it was amazing. If you have missed it, you can look at uh, the uh, the link that was sent to you, and you can just visit it, and it's already uploaded. Moving on to the information about IVSA, I would like to again tell you that it is an international veterinary student association, and it is one of the largest student association. It is a non-profit, non-government organization, and it is spread across the world in 68 countries with 186 member organizations. It is existing to benefit the animals and humans of the world. Now I would like Atharva to introduce the speaker for today, and this is Ruchi, who is our moderator for the entire program. And welcome, Prathamesh sir. Atharva, moving on, can you introduce our speaker for today?
Ruchi?
Yeah. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. So today we have with us Mr. Prathamesh Desai. Thank you for joining us, sir. He is a wildlife expert and a sales executive at Go Travelism Private Limited. He is the president and co-founder of Birds of Thane and Raigad district. He has pursued MBA in tourism from Pondicherry University and BSc in hospitality management from Mumbai University. He has been doing bird watching since 2010 and has been engaged in wildlife rescue since 2008. He switched his profession of hospitality to pursue his passion in wildlife. Atharva, can you continue?
Yeah, thanks, Ruchi. So, talking about his experience with wild animals, Prathamesh has hands on experience in working with sloth bears, elephants, leopards, snakes, as well as many species of birds in captivity and wild. He has experience of working with some renowned zookeepers from US and Europe zoos on animal enrichments and conservation education. He's associated with various Mumbai-based birding projects like birding trails censuses and breeding colony monitoring. And trust me, I've been to his trails and they are very insightful. He has been featured in various newspapers like The Guardian, Mint Lounge, Times of India, Hindustan Times, The Hindu, Maharashtra Times, to name a few, as well as social media articles and blogs for his contribution to avian biodiversity monitoring at national as well as international media levels. Prathamesh, you've done an amazing job, and now I hand on to you.
Thanks, Atharva. Thanks, Ruchi. Thank you for your wonderful introduction. I'm so glad to be on board with you all, guys. Thank you, IVSA, to giving me this opportunity. And I look forward for a wonderful session ahead.
Sure.
So we'll start with the session now. All three of us will be taking your leave, and we'll see you at the end of the presentation.
Sure. Thanks. Okay. So, hi, everyone, and welcome on board. So, today's the topic of discussion is quite special to me, in fact. And when I was given this opportunity to talk something about bird watching, especially related to Mumbai region, I realized that the best way to talk about Mumbai is actually a bird watcher's home. And for the next maybe 35 to 40 minutes, we're going to go through a journey of Mumbai as a bird watcher's home. Yeah. To begin with the session, so whenever we talk about the city of Mumbai, there are a lot of things that comes to your mind. Whenever I ask somebody, how do you describe city of Mumbai? So the best way to describe city of Mumbai is a city that never sleeps. The city of Mumbai is known for many things. Surely, the biggest among all is the Bollywood. It's known for the best nightlife. It's known for some of the very famous landmarks like the Marine Drive, the Gateway of India, the caves, Kanheri Caves at the Sanjay Gandhi National Park, and naturally the festivals. They are just amazing. We are also known for people, so different people are there. Across Mumbai region. We are known for our local trains. I shouldn't be missing this. But it's not just these interesting things. There are so many other crazy life. Apart from this crazy life, Mumbai is also known for some of the other things. We're going to look at them. They are known for the lush green forest. They are known for the mountains. Mumbai is also known for large lakes, like one of these ones. And naturally, not to forget the protection of the Mumbai, the mangroves. And lastly, the coast life of Mumbai region. Now, when you talk about Mumbai, so I particularly prefer to call it the Green Mumbai region. We're going to have a look at what Green Mumbai is all about. So, if you look at the forest cover of the Mumbai city, the total geographic area is around 157 square kilometers with an open forest area of around 3 square kilometers. So, this is for the Mumbai city. If you look at the Mumbai suburban area, the geographical area is around 446 square kilometer with a dense forest area of 67 and an open forest area about the 72.86 square kilometer. Now, this is the green cover of the Mumbai region. Now, moving ahead, when you talk about Green Mumbai is a home to many species. I just want to name few of those. We are actually a home to 1200 plus species of flowering plants, about 433 plus species of birds. That's amazing, for a small place like Mumbai. 70 plus species of mammals. We have 100 plus species of herpetofauna that includes your snakes, your lizards, your geckos, so many interesting things. It's also home to 200 plus species of fishes that includes a marine as well as a freshwater one, and maybe 500 plus species of insects. And naturally there is still a lot to understand about what's happening in and around Mumbai region. So that's what Green Mumbai is all about. Now, when I say Mumbai city as a birdwatcher's home, what exactly do I mean? So let's look at that. So Mumbai city, when I look at Mumbai, I see we have a family of 1,000 plus bird watchers. Our contribution to the checklist globally for an India perspective on eBird is around 18,600 checklist as of yesterday. Mumbai is a home of 433 plus bird species. That's quite amazing for a place like Mumbai. And over 190 plus birding hotspots. So these are the birding habitats, birding areas where you can actually go for bird watching. So that's quite an incredible place to see. And I personally believe that Mumbai is one of those places where you can just reach to all these birding habitats with a very easy mode of commute. That's quite difficult when you go to other places apart from Mumbai region. So that's quite interesting about Mumbai area. Now, when you look at the map of the Mumbai region, I want to show you something quite interesting. I hope everybody can see the cursor. So if you look at this is the heart. This is the Sanjay Gandhi National Park right in the center of the heart. We have the Thane Creek right over here, which opens up in the Arabian Sea all the way here. And we have the range of the Mumbai Hills over here. Now, if you look at the map, if you see there are a lot of greenery around this area. So all these greenery, including the coastal area that you see around this map region, these are all an amazing places when it comes to bird watching. Because birds, whenever you talk about birds are something that can be seen anywhere on the earth, anywhere. You name it, if it's a frozen Antarctica or the Arctic, you name it in the deserts of Sahara or the Great Indian Desert, or you name it in the open sea, the birds are found everywhere. Similarly, whenever it comes to birds of Mumbai, they are pretty much found everywhere in the Mumbai region. And it's quite amazing to see what Mumbai city is up to. Now, similarly, when you look at the city of Mumbai on a hotspot map, so this is a hotspot map from eBird India. When you look at the hotspot map of eBird India, you can see that these are all small balloons which are around it. These are all balloons which actually tells you that these are all the birding hotspots. So it's quite amazing to see how Mumbai is known as a bird watcher's home also, because you can see there's so many. So if you look at the balloons which are more darker, more orangish in color, are the more birds, are the areas where actually there are more number of birds that have been sighted as compared to the one which are blue and grayish in color. So it's quite amazing to see how Mumbai is known as a bird watcher's home. We take a closer look at these balloons. You can see how the distribution. So I live in Dombivli. You can see there are amazing hotspots in and around Dombivli region. If you move on to the Sanjay Gandhi National Park, you will see there are amazing hotspots. There's the orange balloon which says that there may be around 300 plus species in this region, and so on. It's quite amazing to see. And this is the data I've been able to collect it because of eBird India. And this is all. The reason we are able to see these hotspots is because these are all the contributions for the bird watchers and the scientists who have been able to collect it So it's quite amazing. Okay, so we continue. So now, when you look at some of the known bird watching habitats or the sites of Mumbai region, we have the most famous Sanjay Gandhi National Park. As I'm sure many of you by now must be knowing it, we have the Thane Creek Flamingo Sanctuary. We have the Uran Panje wetlands, which at the moment are facing a lot of challenges. We have the entire stretch of Arnala to Bhuigao beach area. Then we have the Karnala Bird Sanctuary, which I'm sure many of you must be knowing on the way to the Goa. We have the Mahim Nature Park, which is located in the heart of the city of Mumbai. We have the NRI colony and all the wetlands which are there in the Navi Mumbai region. When we talk about Dombivli region, we have Bhopar, we have Satpur Copper wetland. This is a stretch of the wetlands that we have on the banks of River Ulhas. And then we have the mountain range of Haji Malang as well as the Parsik Hill range, which includes the Umbra Hills. We're going to look at some slides now. So these basically are the birding habitats. So this is one of the most famous birding, and in fact, one of my favorite birding habitat. This is the famous Powai Lake. It's an excellent place for bird watching, even though there's so much disturbance from the surrounding area. Still, I personally believe that this is still one of the best places when it comes to bird watching. Then actually the famous Sanjay Gandhi National Park, as many of you must be knowing. So Sanjay Gandhi National Park, when you look at it, you can approach this habitat, this particular forest, either from the Mumbai region, which is from the Borivali side, or either you can enter from the Thane area via Ur or the Tikujini Wadi area. And similarly, we have the Bhandu pumping station, which is also a very known, famous area, which is on the Eastern Express Highway. It's also one of the best places when it comes to looking for flamingos or any coastal birds. It's one of my favorite birds place for bird watching. I remember first time when I went to this place was in year 2011, and it was just isolated. Today, it's one of the known birding hotspots that we have around us. Then actually, other favorite habitat, basically the heaven for raptors. We have the Mumra Hills. You can see the river Ulas in the backdrop of it. This is one of those places when it comes to if you're a really fan of raptors, birds of prey. This is naturally one of the best place to go for raptor watching. You know, this is just located next to the Mumra station, and you can easily approach this area from what the Mumra Devi temple area. And last but not the least, the Haji Malang range. This is one of the widest range, which eventually gets connected to the Mathiran region. And it's again one of those places which are the last thriving habitats when it comes to grassland birds of Mumbai region. So I always suggest everyone to come and visit this place at least once. We have been trying to study this place for what past 8 years now, and some amazing records and sightings we have been able to see in this area. Now, over the next few slides, we're going to have a look of just some amazing, interesting sightings of the Mumbai region. It's just a photo walk. It's basically what I personally call as bird watching during the Corona time period, or the in-room bird watching, a virtual tour of the birds of Mumbai. Uh, so these are all photographs that I've taken from birds of Thane and Raigad district, and these are some of the best photographs I've come across. Here we have on the left the greater pindered snipe, a bird which is in fact an indicator of a good wetland. And on to the right, I had the rarest bird, which was the Caspian plover. An amazing, one of the best photographs by Pratik Kulkarni about the Caspian plover, a rare migrant for our region. We move on. Uh, few more wetland birds, the Eurasian oyster catcher on the left and the Indian spot-billed duck. The Indian spot-billed duck is in fact one of those species, the only resident species which is known to breed in the Mumbai region. And today there are a lot of challenges these birds are facing because a lot of habitats have been destroyed. And these poor ducks, they are not able to get wetlands where they can raise the area. Satpur is one of those habitats where we have seen nesting of Indian spot-billed duck. Forest birds, when you look at forest birds, I have the Indian blackbird, the orange minivet, and the white-eared bulbul, one of the very known and one of the most shy forest bird that you will see. Then your crimson back sunbird, also called as a small sunbird, the orange-headed thrush, and the red sparrowfowl. The best place to see the red sparrowfowl is naturally the Valley Park in CBD Belapur. It's one of the best places. This picture is in fact taken from that area only. Not to forget the famous small blue kingfisher, and indeed, a bird that attracts many visitors across India to Mumbai region is the oriental dwarf kingfisher, a species that migrates all the way from south of India to the Western Ghats to nest in the areas of Mumbai region and all the way to Gujarat area. It's called the jewel of the forest. I personally call it the bullet. It flies at a faster speed. We have the Indian paradise flycatcher and the Nilgiri wood pigeon, a species which is endemic to Western Ghats, to our region. And Nilgiri wood pigeon used to be once a species seen in the Sanjay Gandhi National Park as well. But until the recent years, the population has suddenly declined. So now the best place to see this bird is, in fact, your Mathiran area. So this picture is, in fact, taken from the Mathiran region. We have the Baya Weaver, one of the most famous, one of the best architectures in the birding world. We have the Oriental magpie robin. In fact, this is one of those birds I'm sure must be waking you up every morning, especially now in the Corona times. Highly vocal birds, quite known for the songs and their territories also. Another rarity from the region, the long-billed doveccher. This was sighted at the Bhandup pumping station for a time period of 2+ years now, and it's a rarity for our region. The northern shoveler, one of those birds that you see really good in really good numbers, a species that migrates all the way from regions of Arctic Circle, Siberia to our region, and they're seen in really good numbers. This is a male that you see right in front of you. The females are more duller in color. This picture was taken at the Thane Creek Flamingo Sanctuary. We have some more ducks. This is Gargane and the purple swamp hen. Forest birds, when you look at, these are flycatchers. That's a Tickle's blue on the left and a black net monarch flycatcher. Uh, the white, what do you call it? The white spotted fantail flycatcher and naturally the sulfur-bellied warbler. These are all forest species again, forest and city species. And actually, not to forget the barn owls. The owls, which used to be once more common in the countryside, are now the urban species, and one can easily see them across the Mumbai region. And not to forget the harriers, the king of the grassland. This is probably a pallid harrier, a male pallid harrier. This was taken at Hajimalang area by Mr. Manish Kerkar. And that's about, the Mumbai birds. Now, when you look at the threats, Mumbai naturally, whenever it comes to such a big biodiversity, but when I say talk about Mumbai particularly, why do Mumbai attracts such an amazing species of birds, such amazing array of birds, or just the other wildlife is because of the place how we are. If you look at the heart of the city, we have the Sanjay Gandhi National Park, which is all the way from heart of the city all the way to the northern area. If you look at the sides, we have the coastal area, we have the creeks, we have the Basin Creek, we have the Thane Creek, we have the Ulas River. And if you look at the mountain range, we have the Kaneri mountain range, the highest point area. You look at the Mumbra Hills, you look at the Matheran, and you look at the Kharghar Hills, the entire stretch. So all these, unique habitats are the reasons why Mumbai is considered to be one of the best places to bird watching, because it's really difficult to get all these different area of habitats at just one place, and that was so easily approachable. And that's the reason I always like Mumbai as one of those places which is just amazing when it comes to watching birds. Now, naturally, whenever it comes to all these area of habitat, there's always a threat to that. And this is, in fact, one of my favorite pictures by our team from Sanjay Gandhi National Park. This is a leopard here with a backdrop of the city of the Mumbai. And let's look at some of the threats that Mumbai has been facing. Now, when you look at the threats of the Mumbai region, we have I have just noted down some of the threats that we face. Up to mining, dumping, illegal encroachment, change in the land use pattern, deforestation, pollution, and lastly, the poaching. Now, I personally feel, the biggest problem when it comes to the threats is naturally the increase in the population. Whenever there's an increase in the population, there is a demand for, cheap houses or cheap housing. And in order to get these cheap housing and all, you end up destroying, the wetlands. You end up destroying the mangroves because you're looking for places where you can come up with the new houses. And Mumbai city is such a one of those unplanned cities that it's just too difficult to come up with another new building. So you end up going to the suburbs of the region where there is still thriving mangroves areas and all, and you end up destroying it. You start encroaching the national park area boundaries and all. It's quite sad to see this because of the increase in the population, how we are encroaching and how we are trying to just disturb the green cover of the Mumbai region. This is a picture from Bhopar. We are converting the habitats which are once a known grasslands or a scrubland of the Mumbai region are now being converted into the much mega complexes. Actually, the pollution part, the air pollution, a huge challenge. We are looking at one of the huge challenge, that is the plastic pollution. We have been trying our level best, starting from our home, to try to reduce the single-use plastic thing, but it's just too difficult. And even though after so many pleas and all, still situations are same. And we are hoping that these things will change. This is a picture of Methi River. I'm sure you must be very familiar with the challenges that the Methi River has been facing. This is worst among all. Our shorelines are all full of garbage. This is all the garbage that we're dumping in the sea is at the end of the day ending up. So Mother Nature has its very own way of taking care of the things. This is just one of those examples wherein whatever we throw in the water comes back to us on the land. This is a challenge when you look at the creek areas. So this is mining of the sand for the construction purpose. So this is very common in the Ulas River. In fact, in the Basin Creek also, you will more often see these activities being carried on. Many of these activities, in fact, most of these activities are illegal, but they are still being carried out without any supervision. The other challenges that the Mumbai mountains or the hill ranges are facing is the mining for pebbles and all, and this is just an example of it. So Hajimalang Range, in fact, the Barvi Dam, the forest area, a lot of quarries have been seen. The biggest among those is the Khargar, the Parsik Hill Range. In fact, Mumbai Hills and many of those patches are now been completely been called out, and it's just in a bad shape. All those places, these were once a habitat for the Indian eagle owl for breeding, and now they're just badly destroyed. And the worst among all, is the mangrove destruction. This is a picture from Navi Mumbai wetlands. You can see how badly the mangroves have been just destroyed. Uh, some more examples about mangrove destruction actually is the dumping of the garbage in the entire area of the Thane Creek, as well as in the areas of the Bawandop area and all. Whenever more of this garbage gets accumulated together, they just try to destroy the mangrove so that they can get a more bigger land to cover the landmass. Similar examples, similar incidences we have observed in the Mudra Hills area also, where the dumping ground was eventually just a smaller area, but now it has acquired a huge area. And just next to the dumping ground, there are these chawls which are coming up. It's really sad to see how people are thriving in such a bad conditions also. And lastly, when we look at it, we see poaching. Now, these are just pictures taken from the different regions of Maharashtra area. I thank the Maharashtra Forest Department for these pictures. Poaching, even though is not a big challenge now, but then still there are activities that are being carried out. So this is a picture of a poacher now here, and then you can see snares. There are still hunting of spotted deers, wild boars, samba deers, in fact leopards that are still happened in the entire area of the national park area also. But thankfully, our forest department is doing some of the best, amazing job, and they're trying to, catch these guys as much as possible. When you move on from the national park area to the smaller areas like Dombivli or the countryside, the small village, the villagers are the one who are involved in activity of poaching of the birds. So they will put up these snares to catch birds like lapwing, sometimes egrets. They use the hunt for birds, and which is really sad. In Dombivli area, we have been trying our level best to do awareness at the different birding habitats, and it's really working out well. But ongoing process, and we will always continue about it. And I'm sure many of you must be coming across these newspaper articles which talks about, the green cover of the Mumbai is naturally under threat. And it's really true. There are so many challenges that Mumbai has been facing. One of the biggest challenge that Mumbai at the moment, or one of the hot topics that we have is naturally the coastal road, which is coming up in the town area. It's not really a need personally to be speaking, but then, it's a demand. And this coastal road is going to threaten the entire border city, which is existing in its path. Similarly, there are so many articles I'm sure you must be coming across every day. The biggest challenge with the Mumbai region, because it's one of those developed and a metropolitan city, it becomes really difficult to control these activities. And but the best part about all this thing is that Mumbai is, a place where there's a lot of awareness among the people. People read about it. People have an access to the social media page, and there's so much information that is going on WhatsApp groups and so many other things. That's the reason there is a good awareness. So it's also one of those places where nothing is impossible. We can certainly look at the success stories of the Thane Creek Flamingo Sanctuary area, which was very badly been destroyed, but now it has been protected. In fact, RA Colony is actually one of those examples, but the fight is still on. And there are many more wetlands, which are still getting destroyed, even though we are under lockdown at the moment. But that's just we just need to observe it. And at Birds of Thane and Raigad district, what we personally believe is, we take people out on trail, bird watching trails. And whenever we take our members on trails, we show them all these challenges that have been, that the particular habitat has been facing. Because I personally believe it's always best to take a person or a birder or an enthusiast right in the field to show you what exactly the problems are facing, rather than just showing a photograph. And through that, we are being able to, bring a lot of awareness. In fact, among the lot of communities within the Dombivli area, the habitat area, and also, and as well as among the bird watchers also. I would like to thank. So a lot of these images that I have used in my presentation are all been taken. Most of them are from Google, but then some birding images. So I'm grateful to Vidyasagar Hariharan for the wonderful images of the flamingo. Naturally, members of Boards of Thane and Raigad district for their images that I've used, and then naturally eBird India, Maharashtra Forest Department, and not to forget BMC, the Municipal Corporation, for the session. In case if you're not a member of Birds of Thane and Raigad district by now, you can certainly join our group. You just need to answer 3 simple questions. Thank you. Ruchi, all up to you.
Thank you, sir. That was a very uh, presentation.
I'll
We
mute
have a couple
myself.
of no, sir, it's not your mic. It's okay. We have a couple of questions
Sure.
coming in. So, first question is, sir, at which places can you spot ODKF in Mumbai?
Okay, so we are looking here at the Oriental Dwarf Kingfisher area. Now, this is a very nice question. I'll be very honest. Uh, it's a question that even when I started birding, it's a question that I used to get. कि किधर देखना है ODK? Which exactly is the place? So I'll be very honest, whenever it comes to looking at any particular bird, I as a bird watcher, and I'm sure many of the bird watchers, we follow a very simple technique, which is we study the habitat first. Now, whenever you look at the oriented dwarfing fisher, it's a forest bird. Its habitat preference is naturally the forest streams, the small streams, not the heavy flowing streams, but the small forest streams. So I always, every monsoon, I always go on a quest to look for this bird into different habitats, because Mumbai has got amazing mountain range all the way from the Parsik Hills, the Sanjay Gandhi National Park area. So I venture out to these forest area and try to look for forest streams. And whenever I come across any forest streams, I try to look for the bird also, and it works out that the bird is always around. So I always suggest that whenever it comes to looking for any particular bird, you try to look for it all by yourself. That is by studying the habitat first. It's the most important thing. And it's a different fun, whenever you come across a bird all by yourself. It's like a quest, you were looking for a bird and you just saw it. So it's quite amazing. But to answer your question, one of the best places to look for this bird is naturally the Goregaon CEC, which is the BNHS center. They put up this nice setup wherein you can actually go, pay a small amount of fee, an entrance fee, and photograph the bird. So, and this is one of those places where you don't even disturb the bird also, you observe the bird from a safe distance. So I personally recommend you to look for that bird over there. You can certainly go out and venture out in Sanjay Gandhi National Park and look for this bird. As I said, the stream is the most important thing. And you can always go to Karnala to look for this bird. But it's very important that ODK is actually a very sensitive species, and you need to be careful about approaching any species, not just ODK, but whenever it comes to, because this guy comes to us for breeding. So it's very important that you maintain a distance from the nest. What I mean maintaining a distance, really meaning maintaining a distance. It's not just that if you're standing in front of a nest maybe 3 feet, that doesn't mean that you're at a close proximity. You need to move out maybe 10 feet or maybe 20 feet. That's the best way. Try and observe the bird behavior. So that's more important when it comes to it. That's it. I hope I answer your question.
Yeah, so next question from Smriti.
Yeah.
How has environment change affected the birds as per your observation, and what kind of effects do you estimate the lockdown will have on them?
So I'll first tell you about the effect wise. Now, for example, let's take an example of Dombivli area now. Now, we have always been saying that the habitats have been destroyed, the habitats have been shrinking and all. But to be honest, just like us humans, we tend to adapt to the change. Similarly, you will also observe birds are also adapting to the change. So naturally, it's impacting them. So, for example, within the Dombivli area, there was a time when we used to see lots of ducks, lots of migratory ducks, maybe in thousands and thousands in the entire stretch of Ullas River. Now, since there's so much beautification that has happened on the both the banks of the river, as well as there's so much disturbance in terms of tourism that has been happening at the creek area, that the number of birds have reduced completely. We did had cases in the past when it came to poaching, but then those are all been taken care by the police as well as by the local authorities. So that's not a problem. But naturally, it impacts a lot. So I personally believe that the birds have to move. They move, and that's one of the reasons why you come across these rarities. The vagrants also, and they always move. And if you talk about the effects of the lockdown, to be honest, people are still out. It's not that even though when you say lockdown, that means that people are at their home. People are still out. So uh, you're able to watch a lot of these videos on YouTube probably, or as well as on the WhatsApp group. Suddenly there is a shower of the birds that have been sighted in your backyard and all. What I personally feel, and I'm sure many of you would also agree, that these birds or these species were always existing outside our window. It's just that now we have got a time and patience to actually look for them. So they have always been existing, but it's just that you need to look out for them. And I think, yeah, I hope, Spriti, I was able to answer your question. Yes, let's move on.
Sir, our next question is by Hemlata. She asks, where can we get Nilgiri wood pigeon?
The best place to look for this guy is the Mathiran. Naturally, Mathiran is the best place to look for this guy. It's a wood pigeon, as the name says, it's a wood pigeon. So it prefers a nice, dense forest habitat, and it's a very shy species. In fact, even when you go to Mathiran area in the forest area, you need to keep a constant eye for it. And the bird being quite huge, pretty much the same size of a feral pigeon. Whenever it flies, it doesn't even make a sound. That's quite interesting. It's just like an owl. That's one of the interesting fact about these birds, which has those wooded habitats preference. So Mathiran indeed is the best place to look for it. Yes. Next question.
Yes, and next question from Smriti. Why do you think we have such a huge population of pigeons?
Okay. I don't know why, but actually, so pigeons are one of those species, the feral pigeons, to be honest. We didn't have these pigeons first. They're not native to India, to be honest, and not native to many parts of the world also. They were brought here during the early time period when we had a lot of these, British people who were ruling it. They used to bring them as a pet and for hunting purposes, and in fact for the meat purpose. And then these species have been introduced now, and not just India, but many places across the world. They are in fact a vermin. They are in fact a pest. I think why pigeons have been successful in terms of the change in the population or survival is because they have been able to adapt to any changes in the environment that has been thrown at them. If you look at the feral pigeons now, they are building nest in what in your nurseries. They're building nest in your AC, your grills. There was a time whenever we used to talk about the pigeon's nest, it used to have those twigs. You know, but nowadays, if you look at pigeon's nest, they are just in an open mud soil. They are in a pot where there's no twig or nothing like that. So they are one of those species which have turned to be adapting, and because they have been able to adapt to the different feeding thing. Because when you look at pigeons in general, they are by personality a fruitivore species. Someone who preferably feeds on berries, fruits, and seeds. Basically, they're more into that. But if you look at them, they are today a generalist. They can feed on any damn thing that you give it to them, under the name of the religion or under the name of anything. You give them what you call uh, peanuts, they will eat peanuts. You give them chapati, you give them rice, any damn food that you give them, they eat. So, it's basically the so well. That's the reason you see them in really good numbers. The same case is with the black kites also. Suddenly, the population of the black kites is also increasing because, in fact, these are one of those birds of prey that have also been able to adapt to the changes that have been happening in the Mumbai cities. They are also been able to nest in the AC vents, in fact, in the grills and all. So they have also been able to survive. And the challenge what happens when these suddenly there is an increase in population of a particular species, naturally it impacts the other species. So you will see the crows numbers have also slightly gone down. In fact, if you look at the bulbuls, because pigeons, if you look at it, they're quite dominant. I used to do this experiment because my dad used to feed pigeons a lot. I used to hate that a lot. Even after telling him for months and months, finally it took me 6 months and now it's been stopped. So what he used to do is to put in this gatia for the pigeons. It was the actually for crows, but the pigeons used to come. And what was funny to observe that the pigeons would dominate the mynas, the squirrels, the crows, and in fact, the sparrows. And the crows would be scared of them. That's how these birds have adapted. So it's all about adaptation, and these guys have been just doing the best thing. Yeah. Let's move on. Yeah.
So, what can we do to increase the sparrow population again?
Uh, okay, so now coming to this question again, sparrow population. This question has been discussed more often when it comes to media. That the population, the sparrow population, has suddenly been declined for the Mumbai region. To be honest, because of these, the mobile towers and else, yes, to a very good extent, it's absolutely true. It's a fact, in fact. But I personally believe the major reason behind the loss in the number of the sparrows is, in fact, I'm sure many of you must be remembering that Mumbai is actually the concrete city, but then there used to be open land, open ground. So whenever you look at open ground, that basically I'm trying to say is there is mud, there is soil. Whenever there is mud, there is soil, there are insects. There are multiple insects. There are small worms over there, and many species rely on this. The honeybees, the frogs, the geckos, the snakes. Similarly, our sparrows also, many of the bird species. So if you look at today, everywhere around it, there is absolutely no mud. There's no soil, there is no landmass which is available. Everything is now concretized. Now imagine when there is the entire concretization, where will you come across an insects? Because there's absolutely no mud, there's actually no green vegetation which is available. So what sparrows have done is they have moved to an areas where there is still there is mud available, there is access to soil, there is access to food which is really easily available. So I personally would say if you there was a study which was done in Thane region, and it was an activity which was conducted for a time period of 30 days, wherein the citizens participated. It's a citizen science initiative, wherein the sparrow monitoring was done. Participants from housewives to young children to everyone were just supposed to step out of their house and try to spot a sparrow, because sparrow is something that is just easy to identify. And at the end of the project, it was seen that there are sparrows had a preference of the particular habitats, particular areas within the Thane area also. So the Thane jail area, that's where there was a lot of vegetation and all. And when there was a lot of mud and access to the enriched food and all, that's the area where there was a good population of the sparrow sea. So I don't think the numbers have gone down. What I personally feel is that they have moved, to a place where there is a good access of the food available. So that's about the sparrow population.
Yeah. So the next question is, how many species do you think have shifted due to Bhopar construction work?
To be honest, whenever this question has been asked to me by any media person that, can you tell me the numbers of the species that are gone up and down? To be honest, it's not an easy job, and it's not so easy to track it, because we can certainly estimate the number of populations. As I told you that we used to see thousands of ducks, because if you just look at a photograph, there may be hundreds of ducks in one flock. That's how you estimate that there may be thousands of ducks in that particular region. But if you look at those areas now, there are hardly 50 or 60 ducks. That tells you that the population has certainly been declined. But in terms of species, to be honest, Bhopar, we still have been having the same species that we used to see them in 2010. But yes, naturally, I would name three species which have declined, and certainly we are not able to see. One is the grey francolin, a species that I used to see till 2012, and the Bhopal region has now completely been gone. Actually, the habitat is one of the major reasons, but the biggest among them was the poaching. There was a lot of hunting that has been carried out, because grey francolins are naturally a game species, and still they've been hunted for the meat. The other two species that I would like to know, name them. One will be the redneck falcon, which is again a species of a grassland. The population of the redneck falcon, which was at the Bhopal, we had a pair that we were able to see for 4 years, from 2010 till 14 or 13. But redneck falcons are now seen in the Ajimalang area. So again, a shift in the habitat altogether. And the last species I would say is the Indian nightjar. The nightjars used to be quite in good numbers where there was farmlands, but now there are no more farmlands in the Bhopal area. So the nightjar population is also gone down.
Sir, our next question would be, can you talk about the ethics which should be followed while bird watching, and how is photography different from birding?
Oh, a tough one actually. So I will be honest, I'm a bird watcher actually. I started my initial days. I was using. I'm in fact still carrying a binoculars wherever I go. It's just too difficult to just carry a camera with me. I'm still a watcher first and then a photographer first. Well, the question always comes that bird watching versus bird photography. But in the today's world, where there's so much changes happening around us, it's very very important to document things, because let's say you have gone to a particular area, you have seen a rare bird, and if you don't have a photographic evidence, it's really difficult to prove your sighting. At the same time, it's difficult to prove your observations also. So I personally believe photography is also equivalently important. At the end of the day, it's all up to you, how you do it. For example, I particularly have a practice that whenever I see a bird, particularly I pick up my binoculars first. It's a by default thing. It's like an instinct. I just pick up a binocular, I try to observe the bird, and then maybe take a record shot, and then maybe approach the bird accordingly. So that's a personal thing that I personally follow. Now, when you talk about ethics in wildlife, it's a topic which has invited a lot of debates across the world, as well as for us also. What I personally believe when it comes to ethics in wildlife, or ethics in any general thing, is there is a line that has to be drawn, and you don't need to be told by anyone that this is a line. This is where you don't cross the line. It's something that should come within you. For example, whenever you are approaching any bird for a photograph, you should understand what the limit is. Imagine yourself being cornered at that particular place. For a very good example, you're trying to take a picture of a snake during a night trail. Imagine yourself being trapped at that particular place. You've been cornered, and there's these flashes that are coming on you. So I'm sure you won't enjoy it. But at the end of the day, we call it that it's important, because photography is also one of those things that is bringing more and more people into wildlife. So I personally believe that it's all up to you, and there is a line that needs to be drawn. You need to define this line, and you need to ensure that you follow it. Rather than telling somebody ki, I'm not here to tell you all you can't approach you need to approach a bird at a particular distance, or you need to photograph a bird at this particular angle, because it's my perception, to be honest, and it's an ethics that I follow. But at the end of the day, it's you. It should come within you, that this is what I'm doing is absolutely wrong, and that's how I leave ethics up.
Yeah. So the next question from Yash. Hello, hello, can you share your experience on pelagic birding around Mumbai?
So we recently did a pelagic presentation. In fact, what exactly pelagic means. So Mumbai is surrounded by the entire amazing, the Arabian Sea. And pelagic species, when you talk about pelagic birds in general, pelagic species are the species which are known to, thrive in the open sea for like months and months. They will only land on the water. They will only land on the on an island or a land surface for the nesting purposes. So now, when you talk about pelagic birding, pelagic birds in general, Mumbai is one of those best places to look for pelagic birds. But naturally, for that, you need to enter the deep sea. So maybe 4 nautical miles or 5 nautical miles away from the continental shelf as much as possible in the deep sea. When I say pelagic birding, it does not mean that when I'm driving from in a boat from Alibag to Gateway, that's not pelagic at all, because you're moving very close to the coast area. It's basically moving more and more deep sea and that. And Mumbai attracts a lot of pelagic birds. There's not much known about pelagic birds, but frigate birds, then sheer waters, storm petrels, then what else to name? Yeah, I think then parasitic jiggers. These are some of the species that you can actually see doing pelagic. In fact, monsoon is the best time, and the boobies, the masked boobies and the red-footed boobies. Monsoon is the best time to look for pelagic birds. I was always being told that if you just stand close to the Bandra Valley ceiling during a heavy monsoon, and you might end up seeing one of a pelagic birds. I certainly want to do that probably as the lockdown goes away. But that's about pelagic birding in Mumbai region.
Our next question is, which are some of the popular migratory birds which our region hosts during winter?
Okay, so Mumbai is just an amazing place when it comes to lots of migratory birds. The 433 species that I mentioned is also, we have a population of the migratory birds also. Mumbai is surrounded by the coastline. Because of the coastline, we have a lot of shore birds which are migrated to us. These shore birds come all the way from closest to us, all the way from Ladakh to all the way to Arctic Circle to Antarctica. Sorry, all the way from Arctic Circle areas and all. We have birds coming in from Middle East, from Africa, from China. So that's quite amazing. We have the shorebirds which are migrated to us. We have the flamingos which are local migrant to us. They migrate all the way from Gujarat and Rajasthan area to our Mumbai region. We have certain flycatcher species which are local migrant within the India region. So your what do you call the Indian paradise flycatcher is a local migrant. Your Indian pitta is a local migrant that you see. The oriented dwarf kingfisher is a local migrant. So Mumbai is just an amazing place when it comes to migratory birds. The ducks that you see, the raptors, birds of prey that you see are all migratory that you see in the Mumbai region.
Yeah. So next question from Indraneel. There are locations in Mumbai where notices are put up to not feed pigeons, saying they spread diseases and their population increases. What's your opinion on this?
Oh, as I told you that I was, behind my dad for like 6 months to just get rid of that activity. I used to fight with him a lot for that thing. So I personally feel, uh, it's not just feeding pigeons in general. You will also come across a lot of people putting up bird feeders. Honestly, to speak about this, they do it naturally out of love and the emotions, that we are destroying their habitat. So we also need to, give them back something. What I personally feel that you should never feed any species, any wild species, to be honest, and more precise. The only reason because nature takes care of its very own role. Pigeon, as I told you earlier, they're frugivores. If you see in my building and all, we have the ficus tree, the people tree. The pigeons comes and feeds on those berries over there. So they are still taking care of their own thing. So it's not necessary to feed. The sparrows can feed on worms, insects that are around. They can feed on the grains and all, which is easily plentifully available in the wild. So you do not necessarily need to feed any species. If you really want to do something for nature or for wildlife particularly, you can certainly keep water. That's something, fresh water, that to be, because that's something which is very difficult to get. So I personally, I in fact have been keeping water for birds for what the entire summer. So not feeding for surely, but water absolutely yes. And yeah, I think Indranil was also mentioning about the spread of the disease. Yeah, naturally, because it's the science has proven, the studies have been proven that we have a disturbance. Studies have been proven that the defecation of the pigeon, ends up it's basically bacterial disease, fungal diseases, and a lot of diseases which are related to your respiratory system. So it's absolutely true. Even though there are studies that have been put up, and many people, in fact, many people in Mumbai are very well aware about it, but still, it's out of your love, out of the emotions, out of the religion that we end up doing it. I think it's a high time that we need to stop doing it.
Our next question is, what about the raptor population? Nowadays, as the poultry population is affected, what difficulty will the raptors face in this scenario?
Firstly, we don't have poultries across Mumbai region that easily. In fact, Hajimalang has got, I think, one or two poultries, but the raptor population that we have has nothing to do with the poultry population. That is, that the poultries and the raptors work very well where the area where the entire feeding of the raptors thrive in, based on the entire poultry. For Mumbai region, we don't have that as a challenge. So Mumbai, if you look at the raptors that we have in Mumbai region, the major three Akilas, the steppe eagle, the greater spotted eagle, are in fact the Indian spotted eagle and the tawny eagle is also. These are all the species which are more of a scavengers. So when I mean scavengers, they are known to scavenge on the garbage dump yards and all. So the Devna dump yard, which was once, which is the largest dump yard for our region, was in fact a raptor's hotspot. You could see imperial eagles, you could see thousands of steppe eagles, lots of storks used to be once seen over there. So dump yard are something that attracts them a lot because they come for that. And naturally, the other food source, which is our migratory birds that we have, harriers come for a lot of shore birds that we have. They hunt for them, and naturally the food availability. So poultry is not really a challenge for us. And raptor population, if you look at it, we don't have any particular study that tells you that the raptor population has declined or has increased. Naturally, when you look at black kites, yes, it's increased a lot, and dumping yard are one of those biggest challenges because of which the population has just been increased. But not about the other eagles. I would say that the species which used to be once common for Mumbai region, like the Bonelli's eagle or the imperial eagle, which used to be common across the Mumbai region, or including the vultures also, are now been reduced. Naturally, the habitats have been badly destroyed, and the food availability within the city limits is not there. That's the reason you don't get to see them anymore. Yeah.
So Neha asks, what role can birders play in conservation?
Oh, I think not just birders, anybody plays a very important role whenever it looks at conservation. Wherever you look at a birder, naturally, because as a birder, you travel to so many different places. You get to see a lot of things that is happening right in front of you. Because whenever it comes to conservation or habitat destruction, you are the first person happening right in front of you. Because let's take an example at Bhopar. Initially in 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, when we used to go, we used to see these huge landmarks, the greenery, the wetlands and all. And now the habitat has just been destroyed badly because there are these commercial buildings, construction work that has been coming up. So this has all been possible only because bird watching, because of all these things. Because when you it's not about trying to tell somebody, "Ki, this is a problem, you need to go and find this problem." When you are as a birder, or when you are not just a birder, any enthusiast, you by default end up going to these places, and it's because of you that you get to know about this particular destruction or the challenges that the habitat is facing, and that's how the awareness is brought in. So it's important in the conservation aspect.
So we'll take a last question. How many pigeon species do we find around Mumbai, and what are they?
uh, I don't know, let's try to name them. We have the state bird of Maharashtra, the yellow-footed green pigeon. We have the Pompadour green pigeon, which is now called the gray-fronted green pigeon. We have a population of orange-breasted green pigeon that also keeps on coming. Then we have the emerald dove, the closest related to the pigeons. We have the Eurasian collared, red-collared, the spotted, and the laughing bird. I think, yeah, that's about it. And actually, the feral pigeon. The Biggest among them, the feral pigeon. Actually. Yeah.
Um, if we have any more questions from the viewers, we'll wait for a little time if you need to ask. Sir, I had a question. Um,
Please go ahead.
as veterinarians, what role can we play in conserving those species which are needed to be saved?
Oh, it's very, very important. It's a very interesting question. In fact, when I was given an opportunity to interact with the Bombay Veterinary College students, I felt, that was just the best opportunity because, in fact, more often you as vets, you come across these rescue calls, you come across a lot of these bird calls which are in distress. And I personally feel that it's very, very important to understand these bird species because when I got an opportunity to work at wildlife reserves in Agra, we used to get these rescue calls of sarus crane, pelicans, and a lot of migratory birds or the raptors also. Because I was a bird watcher, I was able to add more about the behavior of the bird, more about the feeding habits of the bird. So it's just because I was a birder, I was able to help it out to my veterinary teams over there. So you as a veterinary, it's very important because let's say that a lot of these conservation project that happens, they also need a veterinary person over there. For example, let's take an example of the vultures conservation work that has been happening across the world. It's very, very important to have a vet around there because more often you end up having these, the vultures which have been poisoned by the carcass and all. So if a veterinary doctor is there at a vulture protection site, maybe he can inspect the carcass before it has been introduced right in front of the vulture. In fact, such work has been done in the Konkan area, where before a carcass has been presented in front of a vulture, it has been first inspected whether if this has any traces of any painkillers or diclofenac, and then it has been introduced. So it's very, very important. And also when you start knowing about a species, when you start knowing about the behavior, the habitat, the importance of its species, it's you yourself will feel an interest to work for the particular population, particular species. And I think that way, because I always say that a vet has a permission to touch any species that is around, you know even it could be a scheduled species or anything. As a birder, I cannot probably touch a species, but as a vet you are, so you get a lot of insights about what's happening with these birds. Maybe I would observe a vulture sitting on a perch and I would observe it, but when you have that bird in your hand for a treatment purpose, you can understand so many things about it, and maybe talk about the things which might not be visible just looking at the bird in a natural habitat, but you might know more about its internal organs. Maybe just doing a blood sample or maybe doing a fecal analysis. There's so much that can be told just by being a vet, and it's all possible because of you guys. So hats off. It's always hats off to you guys. And I urge many and many of the veterinary doctors to try and study the species that they do. It's not always possible to have them in your textbooks, in your lessons, in your chapters and all. Even when you do a bird watching, I have not taken this as a course. It's something that I have been fond of as a hobby, and I've developed and grown more and more deeper from 2010. So I think it's the same thing that just works. More practice, the more you do hands-on with the birds, different species, the more you learn about it. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes. Yes.
So we know that the Great Indian Bustard is slowly, the population's declining,
Absolutely.
and so I wanted to ask you that if there are conservation efforts, so like what do they do in these, and as like are there opportunities for veterinarians to help in such projects?
Uh, so a lot of these information is confidential, but I'll tell you some information
Yeah.
about it. Now, naturally, the Great Indian Bustard population has badly declined. The biggest problem with this is the species. In fact, it's not a species that you can just pick up, from a wild and dump it in a breeding center. Just
Yeah.
take the sperm out and do a breeding. Captive breeding is not possible for it. It's a species which is very delicate. One of the best thing that has happened currently been happening for the Great Indian Bustard population or the conservation has been done by the Rajasthan Forest Department. It has also been followed by the Gujarat Forest Department also. Maharashtra, we are still lacking on it. So what the Rajasthan Forest Department has done is they have come up something called as enclosures. These are very simplest form of conservation. You don't need a huge budget for it. So what they've done is within the existing of the Desert National Park area, They have come up with these enclosures which are quite huge, maybe acres of land, and they just put up a wire mesh around it. This wire mesh maybe what around 10 feet to 11 feet easily. So what this wire mesh is doing is that it's allowing the grass to grow in this enclosure area. At the same time, it is ensuring that there is no intrusions from a fox or a wolf or the feral dogs or in fact the cows, which more often end up stepping on the eggs of it. So that way it has helped us a lot, because what the birds are doing now, they're very smart, so they end up in these enclosures. They spend hours and hours, they spend everything in the enclosures. And recently, what was done is that the eggs, so the GIB only gives what least one egg a year. So a lot of
Yeah.
these eggs were collected by the forest department, and these eggs were placed in an artificial incubator, and chicks were hatched. These chicks were raised for what, for 10 days, and the only person which was allowed to be around these chicks were the vets. It was only the veterinary doctors who were taking care of it, and they did an amazing job. And after 10 days, these chicks were released. They were introduced in a small enclosure. We call it a soft release, and they were observed by the biologists and the researchers, including the veterinary doctors. The fecal analysis were done to see that the birds are feeding properly, in the wild, because they have not been fed now. And slowly they were introduced in the larger enclosures. So yes, the vets have played a very, very important role when it comes to JAB, is conservation. Yes.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Atharva.
We'll take one last question. Okay, there are two
Absolutely.
questions.
Sure.
It's the same question. We'll take one last question.
Right.
So the question is, what are the owl species found across the Mumbai region?
Okay. Now, when you talk about owls in general, so I think owl species found across Mumbai region or Maharashtra are pretty much the same birds. As I told you, Mumbai is a forest area. Because of the forest area, we have the forest owlet. We have the spotted owlet. Let's look at the forest species first. We have the forest owlet. We have the jungle owlet. We have the brownwood owl. We have the mottled wood owl. Coming back to the urban life, we have the spotted owlet. If you look at the grasslands or the mountain areas, we have the Indian eagle owl, which is called the rock eagle owl, and the short-eared owl, which is a winter migrant to our region. We do have scops owl. So we have the what you call the Indian scops owl. We do get pilot scops owl as a passage migrant, and I think collared scops owl also.
Okay, so I think we have covered all questions. I'll add our president.
Hello.
Hi, Janvi.
That was an amazing talk.
Thank you, Janvi.
I'm here to say thank you to you and to all the watchers that we have over here. I want to thank you, sir, for your amazing knowledge that you shared with us, and this research that you have done on these birds is amazing. It's commendable, and I'm sure the young bird watchers and the youngsters who have learned from you today will use this knowledge in their future and will have more research in the birds. And I'm grateful to IVSA for giving us this platform. I'm thankful to Ruchi and Atharva for coordinating this event so well. And lastly, thank you to all the bird watchers who have been with us throughout and who will be watching us ahead in time. Thank you so much.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank the entire team of the International Veterinary Student Association. So thank you guys for giving me this wonderful opportunity. Atharva, Ruchi, Indranil, Janvi, we have been coordinating for a week now, and it's just an amazing thing. You guys are doing an amazing job, and I really look forward to see more and more sessions of you guys. Yeah. So take care, stay safe, stay home, and talk to you also. Take care. Bye.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
sir.
Bye.
Stay safe. Stay
I just wanted to tell our viewers that they can visit our Facebook and Instagram pages. The links will be down in the description box. So thank you everybody for joining, and bye bye.
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 Stay home and stay safe. Bye bye.